I want to welcome Mike and Jemila Felisko, who are very dear to my heart and have been an amazing couple from very different gifts that they bring to their relationship. Mike is a bit of a rock star. And Jemila has been involved in both Unity, the Dances of Universal Peace, and American Sufism for many, many years. We're going to be singing a song that is a very beautiful song. It's called Love, Serve, and Remember.
Why have you come to earth? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, serve, and remember? To love, serve, and remember. To love, serve, and remember. To love, serve, and remember. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, serve, and remember? To love, serve, and remember. To love, serve, and remember. To love, serve, and remember. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, serve, and remember? To love, serve, and remember. 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 To love, serve, and remember.
Know that today is the 167th anniversary of the birth of Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore was born on August 22nd, 1854, on an Indian reservation in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Myrtle Fillmore was also born in the month of August. She was born August 6th in Pagetown, Ohio. They couldn't have had more different upbringings. She was born to a very wealthy family, and she was well educated, a graduate of Oberlin College, and had every single need met easily. Charles Fillmore was the son of a trapper, and he made his living, his father, by what he could scrape together, what he could catch and fetch and trade. And Charles Fillmore's mother created miracles when she was able to put together what little food she had into some semblance of meals for the family. But somehow, as the mysterious universe played out, Charles met Myrtle at a poetry reading in Denison, Texas. And they married and had a most interesting life, moving through the Midwest and living in Colorado and investing in real estate and doing all manner of things. And the interesting thing is that before they met, Charles Fillmore had been educated by a woman who had graduated from the same course that Myrtle had taken at Oberlin College. And so they shared a love of literature, and they shared a love of ideas and nature. And in some ways, the universe brought them together for a mission they didn't know at the time. And it took Charles Fillmore a while to convince Myrtle they were meant to be together. Myrtle was about 10 years older than him, and Charles actually heard a voice say, "This is your wife," when he saw her at that poetry reading. But she took a few years to convince. And when she did, that relationship went through many trials and tribulations, just like our relationships go through many trials and tribulations, many ups and downs and ins and outs. And when this movement was begun in the heart of Myrtle Fillmore, it came from her need, because she and Charles were very impoverished at that moment. The bottom had fallen out of the real estate market in Kansas City, and they were pretty much penniless, didn't even know how they were going to feed their kids. And Myrtle was given a death sentence. She was told she was going to die in a few months of incurable tuberculosis. But she had one of those experiences, maybe you've had them, an aha experience in the middle of a lecture. And she, in her heart of hearts, knew something she had always known. I am a child of God, and I do not inherit sickness. I'm a child of God, made in the image and likeness of God, and I have everything I need for perfect health. And she worked with that. She did things that were told to her by her teachers. One of her teachers, Emma Curtis Hopkins, was a famous mystic whom Myrtle and Charles would travel by horse and buggy to visit from Kansas City to Chicago, and they were both ordained by her in 1888. They were ordained to go forth and teach this universal truth. There is no incurable disease. God don't make no junk. You have within you the power to heal. And you have everything within you that the sages and the saints since the beginning of all time and Jesus Christ himself came to teach you about. Wake up. Charles and Myrtle listened to these amazing lectures by Emma Curtis Hopkins on the world Bibles. She was fluent in many languages, and she could teach, if you read her lectures that they heard in 1888, could teach the Tao Te Ching and in the next breath, the Upanishads. She was such an expanded consciousness that people from all over the world came to sit with her in the silence. So this is the beginnings of unity. This is how unity began. And we also have another co-founder of unity, and that is someone that's not often talked about in unity, and that's Cora Fillmore. She was born not in August. She was born in December 15th, 1876. So she was younger than both Charles and Myrtle. And after Myrtle died, Cora and Charles, about a couple of years after Myrtle died, Cora and Charles were married on New Year's Eve, and then commenced to take a tour of the United States. And it was often joked that if Charles Fillmore had found California before moving to Kansas City, that Unity Village would have been in San Francisco. He just loved California so much. And he was 94 years old and married to Cora when he wrote the famous, "I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty force to do the things with a mighty faith and a force to mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me." Let me say that again. He wrote this in his journal. "I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me." How wonderful to affirm such energy and vibrancy at 94 years of age. Cora Fillmore was brilliant and a great writer, and we have Cora to thank for many of Charles Fillmore's books and unpublished manuscripts, things that never probably would have gotten printed if it wasn't for her editing and encouragement. She compiled, organized, edited, and some would say rewrote in some instances the papers of both the Fillmores and gave them to us. And for that, we are forever grateful. And also because she just worked diligently for the movement. She was the director of Silent Unity for a short time before they asked her to do this great work of publishing for them. And so she was the secretary actually to Myrtle and Charles Fillmore for most of her adult life. Charles Fillmore said this about unity. He never imagined it to be a church. He said, "Unity is a link in the great educational movement inaugurated by Jesus Christ. Our objective is to discern the truth in Christianity and prove it." He said, "The truth we teach is not new. Neither do we claim special revelation or discovery of any new religious principles. Our purpose is to help and teach humankind to use and prove the eternal truths taught by the masters." Isn't that beautiful? He also helped us to understand that unity is a spiritual ministry, not a new system of healing. Unlike Christian Science, unity was not focused on healing. And unity did not believe that you had to focus just on the physical or eliminate anything like modern medicine. So unity was an inclusive educational movement that was open to new ideas and innovations in science and medicine, and always has prayed for you and your surgeon or your doctor, And one thing unity will never ask you when you call Silent Unity is, what is your religion? Or what do you believe about your healing? They'll simply say, how may we pray with you? How may we support you from the highest point of view. Joyous, radiant health is the result of right spiritual viewpoint and the daily purposeful effort to unfold the faculties and the virtues and the soul qualities and the realization that this body is the temple of the living God. And we have to give attention to all aspects of our life. We can't put oil in a gas tank and expect our car to run, and we can't paste cow manure on the windshield and expect to have a vision and keep our car moving. And we can't move about on bald tires and expect our vehicle to drive well. Charles Fillmore had a very metaphysical, metaphoric, and symbolic mind. So he would take something like that and put ourself into it. We're the car, and our health depends on feeding our car the right food. They were ardent vegetarians, and Cora Fillmore was a vegan. Back then, she picked and grew her organic fruits and vegetables and was famous for her alfalfa tea and these concoctions she would make of natural foods with certain kinds of seeds that they probably never heard of then. Maybe we never even heard of them now. And some say she kept Charles Fillmore healthy. But Charles Fillmore would say that was a part of it, but also your vision, keeping your mind, your third eye, your imagination, your wonder. He was famous for that. He was much more interested in what you thought and believed about God and spirit than what he did. He was always open to new ideas and wrote about things, like atomic energy before they were invented. He had that kind of an amazing consciousness and ability to connect with universal intelligence. But he knew we had to have tires that weren't bald. We had to have grounded energy of understanding. We couldn't be flying all over and exploding our car, because it was important that our ideas took root in this earth and that we made a difference. One of the things I heard about Charles Fillmore, I'll just leave you with one last story about him. And that is that on his tour, he always believed that if he had said he was going to speak somewhere at some time, whether there was one person there or thousands of people, he would still give his talk. And so he showed up, which was very unusual, because usually, they were just filled, the auditorium is filled with people waiting to hear his message. In this particular case, no one was there except the minister. And so Charles said, well, I'll give you my talk. And so he did. He gave his whole talk. And years later, a man came to Unity Village and he said, thank you, you saved my life. I heard your talk at that church, and he gave, the name and the location and everything. And Charles said, you couldn't have heard my talk at that church because there was no one there but me and the minister. I remember that vividly. And the guy said, well, he said, I was passed out and I was underneath the floorboard in the basement and I heard every word. And that was the beginning of the rest of my sober life. So you never know, right? You never know. And that is just what always amazed me about Charles Fillmore is his devotion, his dedication, and his understanding that it didn't matter whether he was talking to one person or a million people, that it was just as important to do what Spirit had called him to do and to keep his commitments. So I leave you with that. And we're going to have a wonderful song called Altissimo Corazon, which I think encapsulates this whole idea that we're representing today. And it's a song that's very dear to my heart because it's a song to Mary.
Altissimo corazon, altissimo corazon, altissimo corazon, que floresca la luz, que floresca la luz, que floresca la luz, que floresca. Altissimo corazon, altissimo corazon, altissimo corazon, que floresca la luz, que floresca la luz, que floresca la luz, que floresca. Altissimo corazon, altissimo corazon, altissimo corazon, que floresca. Que floresca la luz, que floresca la luz, que floresca la luz, que floresca.
I think that song means that I ask that the light may flourish and the highest love may live on.
Que floresca is the highest love, the spiritual love. La luz is may it flourish. Que floresca la luz. May love and light flourish. La luz is light. So, yeah. May that love and light flourish in our hearts, that we may shine out and polish them and reflect that love back to others.
Thank you, Jemila. That's a perfect song for us right now in the world situation that we're living in. So let's hold that Altissimo Corazon consciousness as we go forth today and shine our love light into the world.